Good, good morning, and welcome back to Authentic Conversations with Moji. How have you guys been? Yeah, I hardly come up anymore unless I have something that's really pressing on my heart to say, so I come out. But hope all is well with everybody and that you are doing well. Um, don't mind me, I'm just trying to set up some things online. Um, yeah, while we wait for others to show up, right? Give me a moment while we wait for others to show up, right? Um, the past few months have been kind of exciting, I should say. A lot of different things are happening and different people are coming in. Some have to go out. Um, just maneuvering this new world in 2022, I find to be sometimes challenging, right? And I find it challenging um, not because I am not prepared. Well, maybe because I'm not prepared yet for a lot of the changes that are happening in the universe. And more so because I am a parent, I've been noticing a lot more things, or maybe it's because I'm just getting older, right? So I've been noticing a lot more things, right? Um, in the 21st century, the challenging things about parenting, right? So I started to wonder, right? I would make a couple of posts on my personal page and listen to people. And some people would come up and everybody would give me their opinions and things like that. But I noticed the change, or the difference rather, between having daughters and having sons, and my style of parenting my sons and my style of parenting my daughters, right? And then I started to ask myself, what is the common denomination aside of me, right? So I took it out there to other parents and I asked 10 mothers, if you had to have children again, would you? And a lot of them said, yes, I would. But there's a lot of things that I would change. And it started to get me to think about the fact that, when you decide to drive a car, the first thing they do is they give you a booklet that you have to read, right? You have to read this book, then you have to take an exam, right? So you read the book, you take an exam, then they give you a driver's permit, then you go for the actual driving test. And if you're in the United States, they make you sit for, you have to have 22 hours of driving before you take the test. And then they make you watch a video on what happens when you drink and drive, right? But when it comes to parenting, nobody cares, right? Absolutely nobody cares. As long as, hi Stella, as long as you can do the jiggy jiggy, you can become a parent, not understanding that you don't even need to be a biological parent to be a parent. Oh my God. Like, really? We don't understand how important it is, right, for each and every one of us to actually be healthy. I'm not talking about money here. No, money is not the most important thing. Money is important. But I'm telling you, money is the least of my problem. God forgive me. And it's not because I think I'm all that in a bag of chips. But when I think about how we parents are no longer parenting, a lot of people, including me, at one point in my life wanted to be friends. And because I had my daughters at a different time in my life, I actually wanted them. I actually planned to have them. I actually chose the person to have them with on my own terms. Guy signs a piece of paper and says, look, I don't want any child. I don't want you to come after me for child support. I don't want this. I don't want that. And I'm like, look, just submit your parental rights to me. And he did. I was like 26, right? Thought I knew it all. Don't know it all. But what I realized is that at that point in time, I had read a lot of books. But here's a problem. The world is changing, and parents are not understanding, or people that are about to have children are not understanding that it's not just the joy. It's not just about the joy of parenting. Really, there's more hurt and pain in parenting than there is. It's like when you're building a house, you put in your sweat, you put in the labor, and until the house is totally finished, you don't even recognize the joy, right? Because there's a lot of stress. You're dealing with different companies, to the electricians, the this, the that. And with parenting, and I'm talking about biological parenting at this moment, and then I'll go to the other types of parenting, right? I realize that with parenting, what we have created, right, is a huge, huge false reality. Guilty. You know me, I'm not going to sit here and pretend like I'm really cool like that. I'm telling you right now, we have human beings have created a false reality. And if anybody wants to come into the show, there's a back channel, there's a link there for you to come to the back end. And I'll tell you what I am talking about for a moment, and then we'll open up the conversation and make it wider. Because I wish more people, I'm telling you, I wish more people will share their experiences, because at the end of the day, we're training people, children, when they get to be about 13, 14, in my experience, they start building their own, forming their own, their own characters, the way they think and things like that. All we can is guide them like a coach or a mentor. I asked a lot of the parents that I am with, and I asked them, I said, are you your child's mentor? And they're like, no, I don't think so. And I'm like, I asked them why. Why are you not their mentor? Why are you not their coach? Because a coach is not going to let you eat bonbons and, ice cream and cupcakes all day, because they know that you have a match, a race to run, or a football match or something like that. Coaches don't do that. And instead of us looking at our children as human beings in biological mothers' heads, from the ones I've spoken to, and I've only spoken to maybe about 20 that are willing to be honest and transparent, and they continuously, because we're told they're children, your children, your children. I learned 5 years ago, for me, because me, I always try different things. If one thing is not working, I go the other way. I learned that the more people told me, the more I called my children, the less I saw them as adults. So I did a switch about 4 years ago. And I started to look at them as people, right? Because as we all know, there's some good people, there's some bad people. And, there's some people that could be trained, and there's some people that you just need, like, I don't even know what, Jesus Christ to come and help. So along the way, I started to look at the different dynamics and the fact that a lot of us are caught in this fantasy island thing of, oh, my child has to be a particular way, or my child has to do this, not understanding that each and every child is different. I took a look at people, twins that were born the same day, from the same sacks, from the same mother, same father, same everything. And I saw that they have different characteristics, right? Which means that if you have more than one child, there's a huge chance that those children are not going to feel nurtured the same way. So you have to learn to speak your child's language. You have to find what motivates them. You have to find what guidelines to bring in, right? All right. So Stella, I see you. You guys hold on, because if I don't do this banner thing, right? If I don't do this, my wife's going to be upset because she took a lot of time to put it together, right? So here we go. I'll be right back. Welcome back. This is Authentic Conversations with Moji. We do authentic conversations, and we do them in the hopes that we have authentic transformations, right? I'm huge on authenticity. I'm huge on integrity. I'm huge on a moral compass, that morality looks different to each and every one of us, right? And one of the things that I notice is that the world is moving away from integrity. We're moving away from a moral compass. We're not talking about the truth anymore, right? Oprah created this madness, because it used to be my truth, your truth, their truth, and But as I grew up, I realized that there's one truth and there's different lenses. There's different lenses that people view the truth with. Like right now, my glasses are like, they have a tint of purple. You can hardly see it. So pretty much everything I look at today is going to have a tint of purple to it. Stella De Silva says, I was in the park earlier and lost count how many mothers were on their phones while pushing a pram. Thank you. That's part of what we're talking about. Therefore, not being present in the moment to engage with the children. That's one of the biggest problems is that we don't even think about let's start before you have a child. Before you have a child. I mean, every time you lay with the opposite gender, if you're a woman, every time you lay with a man, you know there's a 50-50 chance you'll be pregnant. But a lot of people don't have conversations with the people they're having babies with. We don't ask questions of their parenting styles. We don't even ask them if they want to have a child, because if you're doing the jiggy jiggy, you're bound to, there's a possibility that you will get pregnant. We don't think about those things. This is 2022, where we need to start to speak in truth. I know the world is going to beat us down for speaking the truth, because we're expected to live in a false reality of, your children should be your best friend. No, then shouldn't be your best friend. You should have your own friends. Your children are given to you to guide, to train, to mold, to help them to become the best version of themselves. And my prayer, I said something this weekend and I was so grateful because our daughters spent the weekend with us this weekend. And I tell you, it's never been easy. Parenting is not an easy job. You sacrifice so much, you give up so much. If you're like me, your body goes, right? And I know people are going to say, oh my God, you look amazing. Yes, that's because I know how to dress myself. But the truth is, if you are not healed, if you are not whole, if you are not where you think you should be emotionally, I'm not talking about financially, that's a whole different conversation. But emotionally and mentally, I really don't think people should be having just children like that, because like I said, you can't drive a car without a driver's license. And we're bringing people into the world without guidelines, without truth, without, parents that have gone through it, sharing their true story. I'm not talking about the Facebook, post a picture. I've been talking about this thing for 5 years, actually 10 years. As I evolved, I started to see, I gave myself permission to admit that I made mistakes raising these kids. I made mistakes making them business partners at very young age in how we run our home. I made mistakes by not being present, by running after money. Yes, we need money to eat, but my children did not need to live in a fancy house, right? And I'm not knocking parents that are working really hard, but the thing is, see that rhetoric that you can have it all, it's a lie. You can have it all at different stages in your life. That's what I learned. I can have it all. I can have children, be successful, be amazing, be lepalicious, be anything I want to be. But I can't have it all at the same time. I cannot. I watched Serena Williams's thing this weekend, and it opened my mind, my mind a lot wider than it's been in a long time. Serena Williams documentary. Everybody, every mother should go and watch it. Everybody that wants to be a parent, that is the ultimate truth. She's on top of the world. She wasn't planning on having a child. She wasn't planning on being married. She just wanted to play tennis, right? She just wanted to play tennis. And she got pregnant. And she realized that she had to give so much up to be a mother. She couldn't breastfeed and train at the same time. So she had to choose one or the other, and she chose to give up breastfeeding after almost 8 months. She could have it all. She just couldn't have it all at the same time. And I asked the question, are you your child's coach? Are you the child's mentor? Because a lot of times what I realize as a mother of 4, oldest one being 31, youngest one being 19, is that mothers, biological mothers, we have this connection to our children that for some reason, no matter what they're doing, we just don't see it. Like, I've been married 5 years to my wife. The things that she sees, I don't see it. I make excuses for things that I mean, you should not permit. I make excuses. A boy doesn't say good morning in the morning. I don't say anything. She's like, she catches it. Because, it gets to a point where you just pick your battles kind of thing. But the problem is that if you're a coach, you pay attention to the small details. You pay attention to what the child is eating. If you're your child's coach, you pay attention to what they're eating, what they're watching, what they're taking in up until a certain age, because the foundation years between 1 and 10, most of us are running around trying to become the next, Donald Trump. Well, not Donald Trump, the next Elon Musk and things like that, right? And then I take my younger daughter that came to visit us this weekend. She's 28. She has a master's. She's been traveling the world. She was like about 19. So she's living her life. And before she had children. And when she and I spoke a few weeks ago, she's like, I learned to do that from watching you juggle everything. I didn't travel for 22 years, but I sent my children on vacation. I sent them to places. I didn't leave my life. I just started living my life about 15 years ago. See, when we do that, we're teaching these children that we don't matter. We're teaching them that we as human beings, and that's how they should be as well. We as human beings are not relevant to the family structure, when the reality is that if the biological mother or father is not whole, happy, the household becomes damaged. And then there's so much false reality out there. You see people standing in front of Range Rovers. People are believing it's them that own it. It's a lie. Half the time they don't own this stuff. They're just standing in front of it. And then the way parenting styles are changing, especially in America, there's like children now are parenting their parents. Children are now telling the parents who and what and what to do. And we're allowing that to happen. And then we wonder why the world is the way it is, right? We have to understand that they are, I agree with you. I should put to you, Stella. That's why I am saying that a lot of times, see this rhetoric that I don't even like the word single parents anymore, because nobody's really a single parent. It took two people to have the child, unless you went to the sperm bank and bought the sperm. Even then, somebody else had to give you the sperm. But the point I'm trying to make is that we're not all, if you're a coach, like a coach will bring in a nutritionist because they're not a nutritionist. A coach will bring in a physical therapist because they're not a physical therapist, right? So you need more than one person to help you raise a child. And in the Black community, and I talk about every community, but in the Black community today, 50% of the homes are being raised, headed by single parents. I hate that word single, but we'll just use single. Are being headed by single parents. We have to understand that it takes a village to raise a child. It takes you reaching out to somebody and saying, hey, I don't know about X, Y, and Z. I don't do math. Math is not something I do, right? So in the past, I would hire a tutor. In the past, I would hire this. They went for piano classes. They did this. You're subcontracting those things out because I did not have the skills, so I had to subcontract it. It's the same thing as parenting. Parents don't have all the skills. One person. I'm not saying because you don't have the skills, you're a bad parent. I'm saying that because you don't have the skills, you have to know yourself first. You have to self-actualize first. Know who you are, know your weakness, know your strengths, and then what you do not have, you subcontract. And I say subcontract as in you get somebody. That's why they have boys and girls clubs in America. That's why they have coaches and mentors and things like that you can get for your children. My daughter has a mentor. She has a therapist, and she watched me get myself coaches and mentors and things like that. Because I come from a very dysfunctional family. I have no, but it's up to me, Moji, how I choose to retrain myself. And when I started my journey about 20 years ago, my children started to see a different version of me. And about 10 years ago, I turned the corner to become who I am, my true, authentic self that holds no bars, tries to do the right thing at all times. Nobody's perfect, and admitting when she's wrong. But one thing I knew was, for me to raise healthy children, I needed to be healthy myself. Problem is, see, when I was not healthy and I was raising them, I had set the precedence for how they could treat me, how I can be, how they should be. Are we raising this? Are we training these children the right way? Are we helping them to become the best person they can possibly be? If we only our thoughts and opinions matter, if only how we behave around them matters, are we exposing them to other people? You know me, I have no shame. I have absolutely no shame. Let me tell you, what I have realized is that the best mentors are outsiders, because they get to see a 360 view of that child. And if you're a biological mother, you know what I mean when I say that the umbilical connection to these children, even if they're Jeffrey Dahmer, we're still saying, oh, they're so cute. They're so beautiful with God. And we overindulge. Why do we have parties when a child is graduating from kindergarten? Why do we have parties when they graduate from first grade? I'm not saying you shouldn't acknowledge their achievements, but honey, what are they looking forward to if they graduate high school and you give them a car? When they graduate college, what are you going to give them? A plane? We really have to start to motivate these children. And if we can't do it, then we need to subcontract it. Delegate. Shuku to you, Stella. Stella says, know your strength. Delegate to others. Build on your weaknesses, especially when it comes to bringing up children. Because we do that in our businesses. We just don't do it when we're raising children. Why is that? And everybody cannot be a coach, a mentor, and a parent. Everybody is not meant to have children. See this rhetoric, especially in African families where everybody's supposed to have children. Some people want children, shuku to them. Some people don't want children, shuku to them. It doesn't mean they cannot help you raise your children. It doesn't mean, like me, I call people when I get stuck. I have my core people that I go to when I get stuck parenting. I have my wife, thank God. And then I have other friends that I'll call and say, whoa, Bobo, this is what I'm going through. I don't know if I did it wrong or what and they will give me their inputs and I'll go and pray on it, meditate on it, and then decide which way to go. But it's important that we expose our children to people that are doing things, right? Not the local drug dealers, not the rappers. Your child's mentor should not be a rapper unless their future is to be a rapper, right? Your child's mentor should not be a drug dealer around the corner, right? We ourselves should start to expose our children to other people. We protect them so much in 2022 that we allow the media, social media, to raise these children, to form their way of thinking. We allow thank you, Jerry Stella. You should come in. There's a link I posted earlier. Let me post it again. If you want to come into the show with me, please do. After Clubhouse, I just love hearing other people's talk. That's why I don't come here often anymore. But really, the truth is, some people want children but cannot have children. We also have so much value to offer. Shuku to you. People always say, oh, you don't have a child, you don't understand because you don't have children. Honey, what I have learned is that people that did not give birth to your children can discipline them, can teach them, can train them, can mentor them, can coach them, sometimes more than you. Because that emotional connection that we have, that we're not able to turn on and off, is a huge problem. Huge problem. Guilty. I told you about how I had to stop calling my children. I mean, once they hit 15, 16, most of these people are no longer children. They have their own minds. They have their own way of thinking. Yes, you can influence it, right? You can influence it by giving them the options, but the foundation years between 1, I believe, and 12, because 2022, people are growing faster. The foundation years between 1 and 12, in my opinion, are the most important years. That's when they learn to make their beds, clean their dishes, do all the things and watch you doing them, but you making them do it as well. So it becomes a way of life. Good morning. Hello, basic human decency. Thank you, please. And I'm sorry when they're wrong. And that starts from you yourself doing those things and not becoming the doormat of not becoming the doormat, right, of your children or people around us, right? I was the doormat. I cooked, I cleaned. One would say, I'm not eating meat anymore this week, and I will start cooking fish. And then the other one would say, I don't eat fish. So I found myself cooking 3, 4, 5 meals. My wife came in 5 years ago, 5.5, 6 years ago, and said, what are you doing? The real world is not like this. It was like such, I was like, whoa, honey, don't do that. Don't do that. But the truth is that in the real world is not like that. We are all guilty. That's why I keep saying I'm guilty too. Because when you think about it, when they go to their jobs and their boss says do this, they can't negotiate with their boss. They can't say, oh, give me 10 minutes, I'll be right back. And then when they're fired, we say it's because they're black. When it's because we created mama's boys. We create these young men that we do not, young people that we do not. Actually, it's young men, because young women, we raise them to go out there and fight in the world. We raise young women to be self-sufficient. We raise these young children, people, to be self-sufficient. And we should raise our boys to be the same way. I see the difference between my girls and my boys. And I'm telling you, oh my Jesus, I wish I could go back, but I can't. I wish I could go back, but I can't. And I can't because time has passed. So now the only thing I can do is bring it to the table and share with other people so that they too do not fall into those potholes in life. Because it's easier to raise a healthy child than to fix a broken adult. When we don't give them boundaries, when we don't allow them to see the realities of life through us, when we don't share, like, for a while there I was struggling, right? And I didn't let them know. They had no idea. They just thought I was being mean because, I didn't want to do this anymore. I didn't want to buy this anymore. And we can't do this anymore. They didn't understand the concept that economy fell apart in 2008. And when I sold my cars, they're like, oh my God, what are you doing? One of them actually came to me and said, this is embarrassing. My mother can't be riding a bicycle. But because your mother rode a bicycle is why she was able to buy you a car. Which, if I had to do that again either, I would never do that. Because I am a realtor riding a bicycle, what I thought was cool and cute, while my child that's going to university, living on campus, had a car. See, that's part of when learning who we are, understanding ourselves, understanding what we need to do. When you create a business, there's a business plan. And every 6 months to a year, most business people, they reevaluate their goals. They look at the KPIs. They look at the things that they can measure. They look at where they want to be next year. They look at the how to get where they want to be next year. In 2022, we're asking children, oh, what do you want to be? How do you want to be? A 3-year-old doesn't know. They just know for today they want to eat. They want to play. They want to go to Jellicini. But our guidance is very important. Our exposing them to other people is very important. Stella says, I'm 51 and still want my folks to call me their child because that's what I am to them. But of course, they treat me with respect and respect me for the woman that I am today. Yes, nothing wrong with that. For me, Moji, my children will always be my children. But that thing where we continuously program biological mothers, because every time you say child, I'm looking at an infant. I'm looking at, in my head, what I see is that baby that I brought home, not a human being with full autonomy. And I don't know if it makes sense, but to me, it does. And that's how I chose to do it. My daughter will always be my daughter. We hung out this weekend. She ordered a Jack and Coke, and my head almost snapped, like, whoa. Then I had to remind myself, she's 28 years old with a master's degree, has traveled the world literally on her own. She's going to Tanzania for 3 weeks to help in a village in Tanzania to build a school. She's doing her own thing. She's her own person, and she's responsible. But when I see her as a child, Stella, for me, when I continuously tell myself, my child, my child, my child, what I find is that I, Moji, I don't know about anybody else, I always see them as that baby that I brought home. So in my mind, I had to reprogram myself to see them as people once they get to the age where they're able to make their own decisions. And all I can do is give them my opinion or my guidance. And it's okay if they fall, but I'll always be there to pick them up. It's okay if they make mistakes. And I started to say that we do that a lot with boys. Black boys in America, we continue to say, oh, they're killing our black sons. They're killing our black sons. So because we continue to say they're killing our black sons, folks, we overprotect them. We over engage. That's why a lot of mothers, right? That's why a lot of mothers, Nigerian mothers, are so involved in their children, especially their sons' lives, because we've never taught them how to be adults. And we don't even have a lot of them don't have their own lives. So if you don't have your own life, guess what happens? If you don't have your own life, you become a leech on your children's life, and you start to tell them what to do. You start to you're feeding off of them like a leech. I look around me at my 50 something. I'm 57 years. I'm traveling. I jump on a plane. Even Ayomide, the only person I have to worry about is Ayomide the dog. She goes to a nanny for 3-4 days while my wife and I travel, while we'll do things. Even having a dog. Do you know what's funny to me? The funniest thing is when we tried to, adopt Ayomide, I swear to God, they made us fill out a form. We had to give 3 references. They had to check our background to adopt a dog. A dog. But yet, every child that I popped out, after the 3rd day or the 2nd day in the hospital, they just gave me the child. How can you just give? I read books. I was 26, let alone 16-year-olds having babies. With no direction, no nothing. We have to start to do better. We have to start to maybe not doing better, but do something different, because look at the way children, people, humans engage on social media. I mean, it's like one person will put a lie down. They don't even vet it. They don't vet information. They just share. Before you know, it's now the truth. How is that? How is it happening that we all have we're all expected to live in false realities these days? I could be looking at something that's black, and if somebody else says it's white, ooh, it's got to be white. Everybody now saying it's white, but I still see it's black, but hey, it's white. So we all now be saying it's white. But you can't say anything because they'll cancel you or me. Thank God I don't make money off of social media. One lie. Because if I did, I wouldn't make a dime. I can't imagine a world where we're all the same, where everybody thinks alike. There's no room for innovation. There's no room for, improvements. There's no room for anything. And we're just not speaking. As a parent, you should be able to tell your child, look, this is the way to go. This is the wrong path. This is the right path, until they're 15, 16, and then they can make their own decisions, right? Until they're 15, 16, in my own opinion, they can make their own decisions, or they can move out. Yeah, Ayomide is agreeing with me. She's barking, right? And until we do that, until we start to recognize that our job as parents, right, is to prepare our children for the future, for the real world, not the fantasy island that we've created, not the protected shelter that we've given them. If you don't let your children work at an early age, they will not know how to engage at their jobs. If you don't teach them how to get along with people on the outside by them making friends on the outside, it's going to be hard for them to exercise their emotional intelligence muscle. They won't know when to speak, where to speak, how to speak. Just because something is true does not mean you have to say it right there and then. And it also depends on the way you say things. I learned the hard way. So if we are expecting the world to become a better place, then we really have to do better. We really do. Lady Angelic Portia says, I can relate. I also had to read. You and me, I had to readjust too, as I feel I would love to marry who I am breeding. Shuku to you. Would you marry the child that you have that doesn't say good morning dishes, that doesn't cook, that doesn't clean, that doesn't clean their rooms? That's the way to look at it. Would you like to be that child's friend who's condescending, arrogant, irritating? See, because we gave birth to them, we don't usually have a choice, but I learned that we do have a choice. I went through therapy. The therapy I went through in the past 3 years, 5 years really. I'm literally telling you, I had to unlearn so much and relearn that the training they get begins at home. And the topic of the day is, are you a parent, a mentor, or a coach? And is it even possible for all of us to be a coach? No. Everybody cannot be a coach. Everybody cannot be a mentor. Anybody can be a parent, and you can adopt a child. You can, parent with somebody else. Everybody can be a parent. But are we being good parents? Are we taking ourselves out of the equation and doing what is right and not what is easy? Because I'm finding that a lot of people are not really parents. I was there. I wanted to be my children's friends because I grew up in a home where a very dysfunctional family. And instead of finding the medium, right, I went way left. I had no voice in my house. I gave them way too much permission to open their mouth and talk to me about. I had this. The girls didn't do that. The boys are my biggest problems, right? Well, yeah, the girls didn't really do that a lot, but I curbed them. But the boys I always made an excuse for. Oh, it's because society is so mean. It's because there's racism. It's because society tells them they're not good enough. Moji. So I overcompensated by making them believe they're kings. You guys got to stop calling your sons kings and queens because they don't have a castle. They're king of what? Your own house that you're paying the rent, you're paying the bills, you're cooking the food, you're putting everything on the table. But yet they're the kings. How can you have kings without kingdoms? Think about it. Oh, they're black kings. Everybody in Africa is not a king. The village only has one king. But yeah, when we get here, everybody's a king. Everybody's a queen. So now black people are walking around talking about, I'm a queen. I'm a king. My village in Nigeria had one king, maybe 12 queens, because, they always collect women like my dad. But there's only one king. So we're walking around saying, oh, yeah, you're a king. So they walk around believing they're king and everybody's their subject. And then when they disrespect a cop who's afraid of his life and to go home and boop, we don't teach them to follow instructions. We don't teach them to communicate properly. We don't teach them emotional intelligence. We don't teach them the tools they need to make it in life. But for some reason, we're able to train our daughters and we're not training our sons. And this is not a gender war. This is my lived experience. My lived experience. When you tell a young boy he's the man of your house, you're truly telling that young man that whatever they say goes, whatever they do goes. A 10-year-old is not the man of your house. There's a difference between an erotic relationship and a maternal relationship. So to all of you guys that are calling my husband, your son is not your husband. Your son does not do 1/10 of what your husband should be doing. And if you're heterosexual, because me, I'm a lesbian, I'm married to another woman. If you're heterosexual, let me tell you why I believe a lot of relationships are not working in 2022. Women give birth, and all of a sudden, this beautiful, sexy, erotic being, and I don't mean your stature, I don't mean your size, I'm talking about mindset, that the guy married, all of a sudden is Mama Toby, Mama Shukura, Mama Temedu, Mama this. So now the men are seeing you as Mama or Mama somebody instead of who you are. The dynamic changes. And you too don't see yourself as Mama somebody. You are a whole entity as a parent, man or woman. A whole human being that has full equity, to be validated, to be nurtured, to be loved. And people will always tell me, oh my God, children are not supposed to. Yes, they are. Because when they're young, They're infants, which means they can't do for themselves. By the time they hit 6 and 7, they should be making their beds. They should be helping you do chores because you're preparing them for the real world. They should be going to bed at a particular time so you can have a time to do the jiggy jiggy and to engage with your partner on a romantic level. Half the single, let me just say solo parents that I know, they're walking around talking about my children and my life. My children, honey. Hey, come and ask Moji. Your children are your life, right? Okay. When they turn 16 and they start dating, you're still single. When they turn 18, they go to college in America. You're still single by yourself. That's why a lot of women are having nervous breakdowns. And then the next phase for women my age that are old school, they start pressuring the children. When are you going to have a child? Because they need another infant to take care of. I've never had the conversation with my daughter about when she's having a child or not. Why? Because, honey, parenting is not easy. And it should be your child's decision of when to have a child. But because you now want a new project, you'll be bothering them. Oh, you got married a day ago. When are you having a baby? When is the baby coming? When is the baby coming? The woman is not ready. The partners have not even gotten to know each other yet. And they go out there and pop out a child. So if John marries Jane, or John marries John, or John marries Johnny, and you're stressing them to have a child, they haven't taken the time to get to know each other. They have not taken the time to understand how the other one ticks. Now you go and throw another child into the dynamics. Honey. Lady Angelic Portia, you should come up on stage with me. Here's the link again, because I'm not a lecturer. I just bring my life experiences to the table, and I'm sure I'm not the only one. We need to have this conversation. We need to teach them etiquette, respect, communication, commitment, boundaries, especially boundaries. Sure. Especially boundaries. That boundary word, we, parents, not parents, because men, biological fathers, or men that are fathering children, for some reason, they set up boundaries. Like my dad had a chair in the house, nobody else could sit in. That was his chair. The only chair in the house you can't sit in. And everybody knew it. He even had a cup, if I remember. You couldn't drink from that cup. I did, because I was a bad child. But he didn't know. But the point is, we have to set up boundaries. Like, bedtime is this time. You go to your room, you do your thing, lights out at this point in time. Because the world is filled with boundaries. I'm so guilty of that. This new modern way of raising children, it's creating a lot of monsters. I have been through what I call hell and back. You know, life lessons don't come cheap. People say, Auntie Moji, I wish you were my mother. I wish you were my mother. Honey, I'm a better parent today that I don't have a young person in the house, because I learned from my mistakes. Now, should people be learning from their mistakes raising children? Because what we're finding is that a lot more people are getting damaged. Or should we start talking about this? Should we start having these conversations before people have children? That's my question. We need to start having these conversations before people have children. And like I said before, I created a room one day on Clubhouse, out of the blues. I said, if you had to have your children, if you had to make the choice to have children, would you have them? And would you have them when you had them? 90% of the people said yes, they would still have them. No, 60% of the people said yes. About 30% of the people said no, we don't want any children. But 90% said I would have waited. 90% said I would have waited. 90% said I would have waited. Because how are you having a child at 19, 20? When we all know that by the time, for most people, you cannot, you don't know yourself until you've lived, right? You don't know yourself until you lived. Most people leave their parents' house to their husband's house in Nigeria. In America, hopefully, most people move out, they get to engage with other people, they learn how to exercise their emotional intelligence, they sharpen their intuition, they sharpen their sense of self, they learn to build boundaries. Because without boundaries, there's all kinds of jabajantis that happens. And we're so busy making excuses. It's because you're black. Your child does not do his own work. Guilty. Chai. The embarrassment I've been through in my lifetime. Bobo will not do his own work. I'll call the school. They'll be like, my son, just said his grades, he's getting a C, he should have an A. Yeah, he did well on the test, but he didn't turn in his homework. I was so embarrassed that day. And we're not sharing stories enough. We're not talking to each other. Everybody has amazing kids. Go to Facebook. Go. I have been talking about my experiences raising children for the past 5 years. Go to Facebook. Everybody's children is amazing. I posted a question the other day because I'm always asking questions. Because I ask questions because I don't know it all. And in order to grow, I have to hear other people's experiences as well. Honey, I asked a question and a couple people did not answer on my page. They came to my DM and said, Chai, if I knew what I knew now, I wouldn't have had, some people said I wouldn't have had as many children. Some people said I would probably not have had children. Some people said I would have waited. But we're not talking about the truth. One person cannot nurture another human being that solely depends on you. It's not possible. And you definitely can't give what you don't have. That's the problem. You cannot give what you don't have. You should, thank you, Jerry. You don't have to make the mistakes to learn. Just ask questions. If you're running into a problem, ask questions. I have been known to pick up the phone and call Stella's husband. I will DM her when I'm having issues, or other people that my spirit resonates with, that I feel safe with. I'll ask them questions. What can I do? What can I change? What do you think is going on? And sometimes they're not even right, but it helps me to open my mind to something. We need to, I agree with you. We really need to start having these conversations. And you have to understand that sometimes you can't give the child everything they need. Sometimes you might have to find them a mentor. It could be an aunt, it could be a friend, it could be a business. If a child wants to be a lawyer, maybe you should help them find a person that's a lawyer that they can talk to on a regular, they can hang out with on a regular. Because if you want to be a lawyer, you can't be hanging out with Uncle Bo around the corner, who's a drug dealer, and you might be at the wrong place at the wrong time, get picked up with Uncle Bo. If you want to be a model, you can't be eating amalangbegiri with Moji every day. Me, I like my lafun. You can't eat that every day. You need more veggies and all that stuff. So you need to find somebody like that the child can hang out with. We cannot be everything to our children. And too many of us try to be everything to our children. And I find that a lot of fathers, biological fathers, are not really there parenting with their wives either. They believe that if they have provided money to support the child, that's it. There's more to parenting than just giving money. There's so much more. There's the emotional, there's the mental, there's the physical, and then there's the spiritual. And if we don't bring all of that together to align with each other, it's going to be difficult to raise people that are going to be productive in society. If you lack integrity, more than likely your child will lack integrity, because that's what they saw growing up. If you're a man that cheats on your wife and beats your wife, data is out there that shows that it will more than likely happen unless that child is a child that's aware that this is not the right way to be in the world. If you're a mother that's whiny and crabby and yells, I'm a yeller. And because of my children is why I started to go on the journey to self, to discover the best version of me, to heal from my pain and my hurt. There's no Nigerian that's not hurt out there. I'm sorry, we've been in a horrible relationship with our government. And if you're black anywhere in the world, if you're white anywhere in the world, it doesn't matter what color you are. It doesn't matter what race you are. It doesn't matter what nationality you are. Hurt people hurt people. There's so much more information out there, but there's so much bad information out there. You go to social media, people are having sex on social media. A 5-year-old, you give them a phone that's not restricted, they're watching people having sex on social media. We're allowing our children to be exposed to so much out there. So much out there. And it's really sad to see the way these young people are. I wanted to share a story that I can't share. Stella, I'm going to inbox you while I'm doing this show. Actually, I should share it, right? The younger generation, in my opinion, are in a state of danger because of their need to be popular, because of their need to hang with the big boys. If I may borrow that, that's my latest thing. And because they don't have the foundation that has helped to nurture them, teach them how to build boundaries. A lot of them are just going with the flow. They cannot think for themselves. It's what social media tells them is right, that's right. A lot of us are now stuck. You know, I'm lesbian. So what I'm about to say may shock you. A lot of us are stuck on this gender thing instead of education. We're stuck on sexuality instead of education. And when I mean education, I don't mean just classroom education. I'm talking about education, real life education, manners, respect. Because they want a lot of followers, they will do crazy things because they don't know who they are. They go with the flow. I have a friend that's a doctor on social media, just jumping and dancing and doing her thing and all that stuff. But that's because she knows who she is. I dance, I do my thing. But I know who I am. A lot of these kids don't know who they are because their parents, we didn't allow them, we didn't coach them. We did not get them people to emulate. We didn't get them people to look up to. My daughter said something this weekend. She said, I am who I am because of you. At first, it didn't make sense. And it still doesn't to a certain extent. And what I turned around to her and said was, you are who you are because of you. Because I could have given you all that I gave you as a parent, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And you rejected all of the good and only took my ugly, if that makes any sense. Because each child, once you nurture them to the point where they start to make their own decisions, you have to hands off. And we do that with girls. We don't do that with boys. We micromanage the boys' lives and we take the hands off the wheel and allow the women, the young girls, to drive their own cars of life. Your child is not you. There might be a version of you. Like I said, my daughter is a better version of me. Much better. She has her own mind. She has her own she has her own mind. She has her own strengths. She has her own weaknesses. She's very aware of who she is. She knows where she wants to go. And even through the hard times, she continues to put one foot in front of the other. She said she got that from me. She didn't have to get it from me. She chose what she wanted to take with her. That's why it's important to have people around your child or children. That could be their coach. That could be their mentor. That could help you parent. Because in the past 5 years, and I'm not saying people should go and get married or find a partner. That's not what I'm saying. I'm saying you could have friends that co-parent with you. You could have a grandmother that co-parents with you. You could have somebody else that co-parents with you. It takes a village to raise a child. And the way the world is going, without boundaries, communication, interactions, sometimes tough love. Tough love. I'm giving one of our children tough love right now. You want to be an adult? Shuku to you. Shuku to you. Because if you're making $10 an hour, you would not spend X amount of dollars on food. Right? So he's not getting any money from us. Education is what we've promised all our children. But if you don't allow your children to go out there, make mistakes, do what they need to do, acquire the courage to stay authentic, acquire the grit to walk through the hard times, acquire the faith to believe in themselves and in their strength by exercising that muscle, practicing, failing, knowing that you are always there to help out, to pick them up if they need to, but to just allow them to truly develop into amazing human beings or Jekuredu human beings, whatever they choose to be, but letting them do the work instead of us doing all the work for them. I don't see how society is going to end up in 10, 15 years. Because I look around me and a lot of us are not being good parents. We really are not. And I say we, it's not. I'm right there with you. And as we learn, those of us that have the courage to go and do something different and try some different ways, as we learn and see the results, we need to start to have these conversations in our circles, in our sphere. Because if we don't share this wisdom and knowledge with each other, we'll continue to break parents, ourselves. We'll continue to bring children into the world that can't fend for themselves. They do not have emotional strength. You go boo, and they start shouting, I'm traumatized. Everything is trauma. Why is everything now a trauma? There is trauma. There's real trauma out there. And everybody's level of trauma is different. But because the trauma has been so commercialized across the globe, especially in the Western world, people are not being taught how to build grit. It's like Joe Flo, the athlete. She must have trained for hours and hours and years before she made it to the Olympic, before she became the best 100-meter runner. She trained, she suffered, she sweat, she did a lot. But we're not allowing our children to go through that in life. I don't know why. I'm not saying you should allow your children to go and break a leg or break their neck. Sometimes they might have to break a leg, because if you tell the child, don't put your hand in the fire, don't put your hand in the fire, sometimes after they put their hand in the fire and it burns them, hopefully they don't do it again. We have to be consistent as well with the messaging that we're giving these people we call our children. The messaging has to be consistent. In my home, it's integrity, it's truth, it's respect, it's understanding that you're not the nucleus of the family, you're part of the family. Once the children become 14, 15, I believe we should start seeing them as people. You can call them whatever you want, but don't ever forget that they're people, because they're going to be somebody else's husband, wife, father. You have the sex conversation, you have the baby conversation, you have as much conversations as possible. Because at the end of the day, we're not going to live our lives for them. They have to create their own lives. Stella says, for the most part, we're the products of our upbringing and therefore the products of the people around us in the environment during our formative years, especially. Shuku to you, my sister. That's why it's important to surround your children with the positive role models aside of you, so they can have a 360 view of the real world, so that they can build their emotional intelligence, so that they can build their power of discernment, because experience is a huge teacher, but they don't have to be the one experiencing it. If you have other people around them. They can learn from the lives of those people. I have a friend whose uncle was an alcoholic and his kidney failed when he was 35. So my friend has never taken a drop of alcohol. But then her brother drinks like a fish. See, people, if you expose your children to everything that's positive and some negative, my prayer is that they choose to take the good out of the situation. But it's still up to them as a person to choose what they want to do. Because people like me that were raised in dysfunctional families, my mother left when I was 1, my father had 12 wives, revolving door of people in and out, and I had to heal myself. I had to go on a journey to self, to excavate the real Moji before the damage, before the real Moji. And I'm still on that journey because I don't think it'll ever end. But the problem is that a lot of people believe they're perfect. They believe they know it all, and nobody really does. When I started the show today, I talked about how we truly need to start to have parenting classes. We have to start talking about parenting with each other. We have to almost be visible. Allow your walk, your joys, your hurt, your pain, your journey to be seen by others, not just the goodness in your life. Because that's a false reality. Nobody's life is perfect. Nobody's always smiling. Nobody's always, the piece I wrote yesterday when I wrote it, I also put in there my tire tracks, because I have tire tracks, and I had sleepless nights, and I've cried over my children many, many times. Why is it always just the joy of parenting that we talk about? Let's start talking about the real truth, the real issues. And let's start training young people to stand still and have children when they know they are ready. Not because their mothers or their village or their cousins or their dogs or whatever wants them to have children. Not because society tells them they have to have children. Have children because you want to have children. Have children because it's an expression of love. Even if you're a solo woman and you want to go to the sperm bank, have the child because you want to pour into a human being, not because you're making a child to fill the hole that's in you, or because you're doing what society expects of you. We have to figure out, are you a parent? Are you a coach? Are you a mentor to your children? And if you're lacking in one place or the other, I really highly recommend or suggest that you go out there and find mentors and coaches for your children. Because if your child is a basketball player, you're not a basketball coach. Find a coach that's going to train them, unless you are a basketball player yourself. If your child plays tennis, you will find a coach that will coach your child. So go out there and look for people that can help to raise your children, or not look, just allow people to help you raise your children, because we all have friends, we have family. We have a lot of other people around us that can contribute positively into raising our children. And I'm sitting here, take my word for it, I had my first children on my own, literally. So I've been on both sides, and I see the damage from both sides. I see the mistakes that I made along my journey by making myself less, by believing I was less, by making my children my whole life, because society tells me as a woman that's what should be. But we all know that's not true. We are more than a mother, we're more than a wife. And I believe that the more we treasure and value ourselves, the more we'll teach our children boundaries, how to respect us and respect themselves. And when they step out, they will also respect others. I am grateful for you guys being here today. I love having conversations with you. I hope to God one day somebody will come into the back end and join me on stage, right? And you've been there for a while, Stella, and you've seen my journey. I no longer blame everybody for my problems. I look at things from the view of, what did I do wrong? What could I have done better? Even if somebody jacks me, I'm the common denominator. What did I do? What could I do? And as I go through life, just looking at life from that lenses, my life has become more joyful. I must say, I get warm feelings because I'm not the same woman I was 10 years ago. I'm not the same woman I was even 20. I had my first child at 26 because I wanted to. And I did. And they were raised by nannies and whatnot while I was building businesses. If I had to go back, I would still have those children, but I would have waited a few more years. Because nobody was having children the way I had children when I had my children. 1989, walk up to a friend and say, hey, I want to have kids. Signed a piece of paper saying, I, Moji, will be responsible for everything. I don't want anything from you. And I did it. Was it easy on them? No. Was it easy on me? No. And I will still do it exactly the same way this time around. But I wish I had waited till I excavated my authentic self. Because while that period of me searching for who I am, and I was depressed and all this, it affected the kids as well. And I know there's no perfect world. So people are not going to have children when everything is perfect. But I'm saying we need to take more time in understanding that every time you lay with the opposite gender, there's a possibility that you would have children. And even now that gay people are allowed to get married, before you go out there and adopt a child or have a child, have conversations with your partner on your style of parenting. Have conversations with your partner on where they see themselves. Have conversations with your partner to talk about how you will preserve your romantic zone. Yeah. Your romantic zone. How you will preserve your romantic zone. Are we going to be going out one day a week on a date so that we can stay connected? You know, are we going to stay friends? Are we going to communicate when this child is crying for 5 hours straight and we don't know what's going on? Are we going to be level-headed? Because gay people are having children. Gay people are adopting children. We're just trying to figure out, like, the past 5 years has been like, and then I can't wait to start to really talk about the past 5 years of my life with Margaret. Right? And I say I can't wait because I can't wait for it, because people need to learn. You know, people are out there having babies, not understanding that in most states in America, if you're in a gay couple, the biological parent, the one that carries the child, whose blood, whose egg, owns the child, unless you adopt the child, even if you're married in some states. There's a lot of things to really talk about that we are not willing to, we have not been talking about. In a heterosexual couple, they have children, or the wife gets pregnant, they never had conversation. Even the girlfriend, let's just say girlfriend, gets pregnant, they never discussed what would happen. Like, what would happen if I get pregnant? You know, are you ready to be a parent? Are you ready to be this? We don't have those conversations. You guys are just doing the jiggy like rabbits. And then the child comes like, oh, I'm going to be a single. Then you go to the guy and the girl goes, oh, I want to marry you. But did not want to marry you before you got pregnant. Now he marries you because family says he has to marry you. He's resentful of you. He doesn't really like you. He doesn't spend time at home. You're miserable. So now the child's going to be, you're going to mistreat the child. You're going to not be happy. The energy in the house is toxic. We got to do better, folks. We really have to do better. My name is Moji Sola Wilson, and I am so grateful for your time. I can't believe I've been on this long. And Stella, I am grateful that you continue to show up. Thank you for your support. Our parents trying to be brand managers and forgetting to be, don't even go there. That's a whole no. You and me should sit here and talk about that. We need to talk about parents who are pushing their children to be social media rock stars. That's a whole nother show. I'm going to DM you or back channel you, whatever the word is on Facebook these days. And we need to come, you and me on stage. We have to have this conversation with these people. Because the nonsense I see out there, you have a 5-year-old looking like a hoochie mama on screen so people can like it. You have a 5-year-old shaking her ass, doing all these sexual provocative moves in 2022, so you can get likes, so you can get followership, so you can get money. That's a whole different conversation, honey. And we ain't ready for that today. My name is Moji Solo Wilson. I say thank you for being here. I say I hope you come back next week, Wednesday, same time, 10 a.m. CST. And I promise you, I have made a commitment to be intentional about the conversations we have. Some days we'll come here and shoot breeze, 5, 6 of us. Some days we'll talk real stuff like today. But I promise I will be intentional. I'll be consistent. And a lot of times I don't come up because the things I want to say did not sound politically correct, right? So I don't come, I don't talk. I refuse to speak unless I can speak my truth. But I realize that if we all just keep quiet, there are people that feel the way I do about the world. So that's my audience. My audience is not everybody that's looking to be patted on the back for stupid things that we do, right? Because the world will continue to, they will clap for you until you become a runaway train. Speaking of parents on social media that become brand managers, a girl in Houston was murdered. I went to her page to look. She was one of those kittens, sex kittens on social media, and her parents were her brand managers. The girl was half naked. The guy that killed her, I'll post the story as a link here, killed the girl allegedly because he had sent her a lot of money on IG. Somehow, some way, he found her address and stabbed her to death. Stabbed her to death. Brand managers, parents that are brand managers, that we forget to protect our children. A lot, when I was a talent manager for 7 years before I go, and a lot of the movies my daughters and sons got, I wouldn't let them do it if they had to curse. If, like, my daughter was 13, they wanted a 17-year-old boy to be kissing her. I'm like, no, I'd rather not have her not do the movie. And we didn't. But a lot of us parents these days, we're so into this monetizing social media and all that we are not being careful. We are not raising the children. We're not giving them boundaries and such. So me and you, Stella, we got to come talk about this. And this is a whole different show. But I thank you all for being here. I'm grateful you're here. And believe you me, every voice is important. By the way, join me on Clubhouse on Sunday. There's a new program that the African LGBTQ created. We are planning on paying the tuition of 50, I repeat, 50 Nigerians who want to go for higher education. We don't need your money. We don't want you to be partners, but we need your support to get the word out. So we'll be on Clubhouse on this weekend. I'll put the word out in a few days. We've been doing this thing for a while where we take 1 or 2 people and we put them through university or college or training or something like that for the past, I think, 5 years. And before my wife came along, I was kind of sort of doing that on my own for quite a minute. But this time, it's time to do it on a grander, bigger scale. So it's called the Solar Wilson Guardian Angel Program. And we have a Facebook page for it. We created the page years ago. We actually created the program many years ago, but because our children were still young, the last one is now in university, so there's more space in our lives to do a lot more. And I personally believe that giving back is not about handicapping people. Giving back is really about empowering people so that they can go out there and live an authentic, productive life where they don't need you to give them peanuts. I can give somebody 100,000 naira and they'll spend the money and that's it. But if we use that money to pay for education and we find them mentors and things like that, I am hoping that it will become a better world, and it will become a much more inclusive world, because the less pain, the less pain that's out there, the less broken people, the less people that will be trolling on social media, the less, hopefully anyways, the less people that will be stealing and all that stuff. I hope that we are all doing our own little bit to create a better world. So Stella, I'm going to DM you. And for all of you guys that are here, all 4 of you that are here, thank you for watching. I'm grateful. And I hope you'll join us on Saturday or Sunday. I'm not sure yet, but I will definitely post the links here. And please help us spread the word for people to join the Authentic Transformation Club on Clubhouse, where we have authentic conversations, really, to be able to hoping to transform lives. I am grateful. And Stella, you are amazing. That's why you're our friend, right? All right, guys, it's good to see you. I thank you for being here. And I hope to see you next week. Until then, have the conversations with your friends, with your children, and with as many people as possible about parenting, coaching, and mentorship. Tell your single parent friends that they can't do it on this by themselves. They're only breaking themselves. It's exhausting. It's mentally draining. And there's no reason why it should not take a village to raise a child. Women, we don't need to be superwomen anymore. We can have it all. We can. We just cannot have it all at the same time. Namaste.